Lee. Lee. Lee! Lee!
What?
There's a pandemic going on in the world and we need you to make entertainment online now!
Okay.
Quickly!
Let's do this. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Wait right there.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready. Are you ready? Let's rock. Hello and welcome to another episode of Co-Video Breakdown with Lee Christian and
Grace Williams!
what have we got coming up on the show, Grace?
We have got another trip to the farm. We've got hair.
No, that's a donkey.
We've got hair. We've got more chilling with Fong Deezy. We have got an interview with a genuine celebrity.
He's a rock star.
Rockstar!
Ace from Skunk Anansie is coming up later on. But first up, as usual, it's our Corona update.
And in some sad news this week, Boris Johnson has returned to work.
And Boris Johnson and his lady friend have welcomed a brand new baby boy. They're going to be calling it COVID, as it is his 19th child. And like the coronavirus, in 10 years will be a distant memory to his father.
The UK has received a delivery of much needed PPE equipment. Unfortunately, these are being delivered by Sainsbury's, who have substituted kumquats for face masks and leftover Easter eggs for rubber gloves.
And the government have clarified that you may only visit a masseuse for a sensual massage.
When homeschooling your children, make sure you've got an area for them to have a crafty ciggy break in their lunch hour. Otherwise, you'll have to put up with their withdrawal symptoms.
And scientists in Japan have discovered a new crunchy strain of the virus. It's mostly the same, but just much harder to spread.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
You might remember on the show a few weeks back we featured Vans for Bands and their Just Giving appeal. The appeal offers tour buses to NHS hospitals for frontline doctors and nurses to use as rest facilities during the COVID-19 crisis. It costs approximately £8,000 for a month for a bus and a driver to be provided, non-profit. So far, they have raised a whopping £22,300, but they still need donations to hit their target.
Last Saturday, they put on an online festival, Bustable, featuring a whole host of stars playing on social media, including the Sex Pistols' Glenn Matlock, with Bowie guitarist Earl Slick, Dr. Alex Patterson of The Orb, and Vans for Bands owner Taron Anderson's bandmate Frank Turner.
Locking in and out in a strange flat in East London. Somebody I don't really know just gave me something to help settle me down, to stop me from always thinking about you. And you know your life is heading in a questionable direction when you're up for dates with strangers and you can't remember anything except the way you sounded when you told me you didn't know what I should do. Hey! It's a long road up to recovery from here, a long way back to the light. It's a long road up to recovery from here, a long way to make it right. So I've been waking in the morning just like every other day, and just like every boring blue song I get all about the pain. And so I fumble for your figure in the darkness to make it go away. But you're not lying there any longer, and I know that that's my fault. So I've been pounding on the floor, and I've been crawling on the walls, and I've been dipping in my darkness. Serotonin boosters, cider, and some kind of smelling salts. It's a long road up to recovery from here, a long way to making it right. And on the first night we met, he said, well, darling, let's make a deal. If anybody ever asks us, let's just tell them that we met on a live stream on Facebook for the NHS buses. And that's the story. I seem to like a stony face to compass. Tonight I need to hear the truth. I'm getting through this. Yeah, he once sent me a letter that said, if you're lost at sea, close your eyes to catch a drop of you and don't think of me. But darling, now I'm singing and I was lost for me. And I was hoping you could drive me up and down here towards my recovery. Hey!
You can find out more on vansforbands.co.uk and on the Just Giving page. You can also watch all the videos from Bustival on Vans for Bands Facebook page.
And now, it's Vincent Vega with what's coming up next. Wicka wicka wah wah.
Now I can imagine we've got a lot of Star Wars fans watching, and you will know that there's a very important date in the calendar coming up, isn't there, Lee?
May the 4th be with you.
So, to celebrate, we have got musical artist Darth Elvis on the show this week performing a song called
Bib Fortuna. Take it away, Darth Elvis. Uh-huh.
Sing along, baby, if you know this one. Yeah, hot dang! Ooh, my little feisty one, cowering in fear of Bib Fortuna. Take you to Jabba now, dying wanga, Bib Fortuna. Always gonna serve this hot, such a dirty one, palace is corrupt, through the scum, but I call it home, die, wang, goo, Bib Fortuna. Come a little closer, oola, will you oola? Let me touch your little Bib Fortuna. Keep it in a mystery, it gets to me. Checking out my sharp teeth, Bib Fortuna. Always gonna serve this hot, such a dirty one, palace is corrupt, through the scum, but I call it home, die, wang, goo, Bib Fortuna. Bib Fortuna, wow!
Awesome, Darth Elvis.
Hot dang, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe. Love you lots.
Thanks very much. You can go and catch him on his Instagram, and he's usually at lots of comic cons and things like that. So if you want a good laugh, he's got a whole set. That's just one of many songs, but we thought we'd pick that one because obviously My Sharona has been doing the rounds a little bit in a totally unrelated way, obviously. So what's up next, Grace?
We are going over to France again, Lee, to see Pat and Liv down on the farm.
Welcome back to Fair Muffy. Today we're in the veg garden to talk about seed saving and resilience. It's no surprise if you're lucky enough to have a garden, you'll be spending more time in it at the moment, and if you're working from home, it's probably to a soundtrack of lawnmowers. Now I understand that seed companies are having trouble keeping up with demand, and some people are even stockpiling seeds. However, most commercially available seeds are F1 hybrids, which means at best the plant won't come true, it won't have the same characteristics as the original plant, and at worst it will be infertile by design. So you can't keep the seed, and you'll have to buy more when you run out. Thankfully, Liv's going to tell us how to get around this.
Seed stock is one of the most important assets on your farm if you want to be self-sufficient. Modern farming relies on F1 varieties, which are hybrids of what are called inbred lines. They have many advantages, from greater yields, better germination rates, and more consistent results. But their primary drawback is the fact that you cannot use these varieties if you want to keep your own seed. Open pollinated varieties, however, like the ones I have here, not only produce seed that are true to type, but they are also more dynamic and resilient. That is to say, as a plant flowers, is pollinated by a passing bee and then goes to seed, it's creating a genetic pool for the following generation. And when you sow that generation, a process of natural selection takes place, where the plants with the attributes that are best suited to the conditions on your plot are more likely to flourish. And when you select those plants to produce seed for the following year, you're essentially creating a bespoke stock that is slowly adapting to your environment. So while F1s have contributed to greater food security in the affluent world, there is a big question mark over their ability to be resilient faced with the challenges of climate change. Firstly, they rely heavily on the input of petrochemical fertilizers and herbicides and pesticides because they're developed to grow in conditions that are weed-free, pest-free, with the liberal application of water-soluble nutrients. If you block a plant's ability to reproduce, you're hampering nature's ability to adapt, which, left to its own devices, it does relatively well. And as a gardener, you can influence that process by imposing some anthropocentric criteria, like better flavors or bigger fruit, for example. Then there's a question of relying on these companies to produce seed for general sale. I mean, in the case of a crisis event and their production is interrupted, then agriculture grinds to a halt. Whilst if a farmer keeps their own seed, they always run the risk of having a bad year and losing their entire stock of one variety or another. But food production isn't impacted in the same way as it is if the production or distribution is interrupted at one of these large companies. And then there is the fact that if you want to grow your own food year in, year out, it is much cheaper to keep your own seed. I mean, for example, I bought this packet this year of green beans because I'd like to try a new variety. It cost me €4.50 and weighs 100 grams. This, on the other hand, is my stock of black turtle beans that I grew last year. It weighs just shy of a kilo and it cost me nothing. So if you have a veggie patch and you grow F1s, I urge you to consider growing some open pollinated varieties. And if you don't have a veggie patch but you've been considering it, then forget F1s and go straight to the open pollinated varieties. And most importantly, keep your own seeds, because you never know, one day they may serve as currency.
Well, it's clear the profit motive provides no incentive to sell a product with the ability to reproduce itself, so it's down to growers to seek alternatives. This open pollinated kale is in flower, and with this many flowers, it's inevitable that some of the seed will drop before we have a chance to harvest it. Some of that seed will germinate at a time of its choosing and will thrive, meaning food for us in winter and early spring with no extra work. So I'm going to take some leaves of this kale for dinner, along with some Swiss chard and some fennel. all of which self-seeded. Liv mentioned resilience to climate change, which is at the heart of why we're pursuing a more sustainable and self-sufficient lifestyle. We're developing lots of small revenue streams here in order to be more resilient. So if you have one or two large income sources and one of them fails, it could be catastrophic. Whereas if you have, say, 20 smaller revenue streams and accept that in any given year 4 or maybe 5 of those will fail, then you're more resilient. So in order to achieve these aims, it's necessary to design a low input, high output system. And perennial plants which come back year after year, can really help with this. For example, these artichokes here, they're very little effort to grow. And in a good year they produce more than enough for our needs, even in this small patch. The time in them is in the harvesting and the preservation, which you only need to put in if the crop succeeds. But they're a few weeks away yet, so in the meantime there's quite a lot here actually if you look really closely. For example, radishes, spinach, lettuce and turnip tops, which we can thin out and eat the thinnings. Chicory, which is self-sown. And also tree cabbage. Well, that's dinner sorted. See you next time.
That was EJ Gunk up in the building. Go and check out EJ Gunk everywhere. He's inexplicably indescribable. And what's up next, Grace?
Well, Lee, I feel like my hair's got a bit limp and lifeless and I really need a style. But do you know what?
You know what style is?
Maxine, showing you how to curl your hair in the mirror.
I thought it was Maite in the shower.
Hi, my name's Maxine. I work for a company called Idlewild and we have 5 hair salons in the Oxfordshire area. Now, I was going to show you how to curl your hair with straighteners. We've all got straighteners at home and this, getting a bit of curl in your hair literally hides a multitude of sins. I've not had mine cut for quite a while. So, heat up your straighteners. Heat protector if you've got it. Just grab chunks. Honestly, you do not need to be neat. Hair straighteners down, hold with your fingers, twist and bend. Bigger the section, the more wave you're going to get. Smaller the section, the more curl. If you've got longer hair, just keep on twisting the straighteners. Now, if you've got really silky, clean hair, you can put some hairspray in it. Hairspray will burn, it's just the hairspray, not your hair. So this has got resin in it, so this just bends the curl into position. So don't be neat, grab some bits, twist it. When you get to the back, if you've got shorter hair like me, just feel your way, literally don't try and do it in the mirror, it's just hysterical. If you've got longer hair, part it down the middle, bring it round, curl that way. Once you've done it, if you want to wave, brush it out. Or bring it out, make it big, whatever you like. I prefer big hair. Little bit of a flick. Now, tip. If you decide you don't like it and you want to change it, don't keep going over the same piece of hair again and again. What you need to do is wait till it cools down. You've already changed the bonds, so once it cools down you can re-change them again. If they're hot, they won't change. So keep going around. If you've got a sectioning clip and you've got more hair on the other side, pin it up, but again, don't worry, don't be neat. remember, grab and twist. Hair straighteners pointing down. Ooh, curl. What I was going to do is show you how to pin your fringe. You do not want to be cutting this at home yourself. I've seen funny fringes over the years. Hairspray, if you've got some at home. Back comb. You can back comb with a comb or a brush. Really firm in at the roots. This all works better on dirty hair. Mine's actually clean at the minute, which is quite a rarity. But keep spraying in at the roots and really back comb. Really firm, literally you want your hair on end. Now my hair, because it's so bleached, will back comb really easy. When you get to hair here, not bleached, it's going to need more spray, more back combing. I like big hair, so my plan would be to go for a big 50s quiff. You can smooth the outside with your comb, but don't comb all of your back comb out. You just don't want to see it. You don't want it to look like a matted mess. Later on you could be doing that FaceTime call with the guy of your dreams, or like me, this is my birthday weekend, it's just going to be with my mates. Using just some Kirby grips I found at the bottom of the drawer, coat pocket, found some in my car earlier. Get my nice 50s quiff going on. Keep on curling, hair straighteners pointing down, bend, you can bend in any direction, away from the face, forward, and just curl. I'm gonna keep curling. It just really hides the fact that you've not had your hair cut, like me, for quite a while. Obviously hair that's not bleached can take longer on the straighteners. Hair that is bleached you want to be more careful with. And you keep going section by section, that way you just get a tousled look that makes you look like you've put no effort in whatsoever, but you don't look like a pile of crap when you're on the phone. Hope this helps some of you. Thanks very much, be safe, bye.
Welcome back to Co-Video Breakdown. I'm Mick Jagger.
And I'm Keith Richards. So, are you getting a bit fed up of going on those big Zoom chats and doing multi-quizzes and having drinks parties and trying to learn from a 5-hour-long webinar on astrophysics, and you just want to sit down with a good old-fashioned read?
Ah, that's right. That's what I thought as well. That's what I like as well.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to give you not an old-fashioned read. I want to give you a new-fashioned read. This is a comic that I put out last year around this time for Free Comic Book Day. It's called Bad Vibes Monthly. It turned out to be just 1 month in the end. You can get a free version of it. Basically, the publisher pulled out, so I printed it and got it all going, and then it all kind of fell apart. Sadly, I'd love to get it restarted again at some point, but for now you can go and get a taster. The first issue is free online at the Odyssey Comics. That's THEODICY Comics. And you've got awesome stories. There's this awesome one which is all about a possession from Daniel Whiston, who has written some really cool stuff and invented the character Leroy Spinks. And there's also Phil Elliott from awesome work, Marvel's Real Ghostbusters, all sorts of cool stuff. And he does The Dummy, which is a story about a ventriloquist dummy, and not all is well there. And then there's The Plastic PPE of a Different Type, which is a story I wrote. And then you've got an ad for the Deadbeats, which will be coming soon, mark my words. And then there's an awesome one about Space Cafe by Natasha Skelton and Lux. Then there's Galaxy Cop Kemba by one of my favourites, AEW. You can catch loads of his cool stuff online. There's also a little thought piece of sorts as well. So yeah, and there's wicked art in it and all sorts of stuff. So go and check that out. You can get a free download of it at the Odyssey Comics. As I said, what have you been reading, Grace?
I've been reading an old book, not as old as Dickens, but you know, in the last decade or so.
Do we have to talk about it?
No, we don't have to talk about it.
No, I tell you what, we need to talk about it, don't we?
We need to talk about Kevin! Now, for those of you who have watched the film of We Need
Sequel
to
to
Talk
Home Alone.
We need to talk about Kevin.
See Kevin
McAllister,
Yeah.
yeah, we need to talk about Kevin. The film with Tilda Swinton,
Kevin Keegan,
Ezra Miller,
Kevin Westerberg,
and John C. Reilly.
and Kevin...
Klein?
Indeed, that guy.
Smith?
Yes.
Bacon?
Yeah. Oh, why couldn't I think of any of them?
The plot basically is Eva is a lady who has had a child called Kevin very later on in her life. She's like in her late 30s, early 40s. And Kevin is a bit like one of them Columbine kids. Unfortunately, he goes into school and shoots a load of his fellow classmates, and this book basically is Eva writing to her estranged husband Franklin about how awful Kevin has been. It's throughout her life and how she sort of changed as a woman as a result of the birth of Kevin, and it basically deals with this nature versus nurture subjects. Are children born bad? What makes them bad? Is there anything we could have done? Do we always blame the parents? Why do we have children? So many questions. It won the Orange Prize for Fiction. Do you remember when Orange
was a thing? Yeah.
Orange. Remember the Orange?
Nowadays, the only orange anyone talks about is Trump's face.
Yeah. So
take it away, Dan. Do 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 da da da. It's all I want to say to you. Do you like games?
I love games.
Good. Well, here's more games with Trista Bites.
Hey guys, Trista Bites here with another gaming recommendation, except this week there was only one game to choose from. There was only one game I could possibly include. And that's because Streets of Rage 4 just came out. The game we've been waiting for 2 years of development. In fact, we've been waiting for it since Streets of Rage 3, to be fair. But it's out now. It's amazing. It's beautiful. If you are a fan of side-scrolling beat-em-ups, you need to get this game. It is such a wonderful blend of old and new, blending the nostalgia and new gameplay elements and bringing those together as a wonderful, cohesive love letter to fans of these kind of games, plus still having enough new things in there to be appealing to people who are just joining the genre as well. The artwork's gorgeous. It has the heart and soul of the original, but it updates it for modern graphic systems. They've also included retro and modern versions of the soundtrack as well, so you can live through the nostalgic memories, or you can go with the new music. They're giving us all these options. You can also unlock pixel art versions of the characters as well, because why not? You could also play this 4-player on local co-op or 2-player online co-op as well, which I think is a wonderful addition. They've updated the combo system, they've added star moves, they've just basically given it an overhaul, made a true sequel, not a remake, not a reboot, a true sequel to the original, and it's just great fun. Some bits of it can be brutal. I'm not going to say it's the easiest game in the world, but it is vastly fun, and you definitely need to try it out. I believe it's out on the Xbox Game Pass at the moment, plus it's available on pretty much every system ever, so do check it out. I would love to know what you make of it, if you feel this is indeed a true worthy successor to the Streets of Rage series, if it's bringing back floods of nostalgia to you, if it's made you get out your Sega Mega Drive or Genesis again and start playing the old games too. I'd also like to know if your kids are playing this and what they make of this type of game. So please let us know in the comments if you're playing it, if you'd like to play it, and what you thought about it. And I will see you guys all next week.
Next, it is our new regular segment where we chill with Fondeezy.
out after that. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very chilled out, thanks.
Awesome. So, next up, I guess it's the moment lots of you have been waiting for. It is...
an interview with Ace from Skunk Anansie.
Yeah! Hear about all of these records being made. And lots more to boot. Not lots more records, just lots more stuff.
Let's see how long Lee can hold these up.
Pick an album, any album. Don't tell me which one it is.
Take it away, Lee from the past.
Thanks for taking the time out to chat to us, because you are actually crazily busy, despite all of this. So
that's right, but I ain't going out. I must have been, since the lockdown started until I actually kind of came out of working from the building, we all went sent home.
Yeah.
I think I've only been out like on the street like twice, but I've been doing night walking, because in the day it's like, you end up doing a lot of online stuff, 7, 8, 10 hours a day online.
Yeah, sure.
And then, your back and your body and all that needs a bit of a stretch. And then by the time I finish, around about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, I'll go for a walk around the perimeter of the park it's absolutely deserted, and it's a really good time. And so I've started writing poetry. There you go.
Really? Crikey.
Yeah kind of creative kind of thoughts. Everyone's always going, be creative, learn a new instrument.
Yeah, sure. Do something new.
I mean, I agree with that, but at the same time, it's like there's no pressure to be creative. Everyone was kind of going, you should do this and you should do that online and all this stuff. I was like, I'm busy, right? I'm busy.
Yeah.
I need something that's a bit of an escapism.
Yeah,
I started doing these night walks, but not listening to music, because normally I'm listening on my head.
Sure, of course, yeah.
And I started thinking about how I actually really felt. So I started to just write it down in poems, because I've been doing poetry stuff with my son for his schoolwork. Right. And it kind of just like made me think.
Unlocked it a bit, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really fun. It's really good.
Wicked, awesome. So I wanted to just go right to the start, first of all. So how did you get into playing guitar, and then how did that lead to Skunk Anansie?
Briefly, when I was a kid, I obviously about 12 years old, my brother went to heavy metal concerts, and I begged my mum that I could go to one, and she said, you can only go if your brother takes you. And at 12 years old, he took me to see Motorhead, Ace of Spades.
Amazing.
And it was that pivotal moment, wasn't it, where one minute you're like a fairly normal kid going to school and stuff, and the next day you've seen Motorhead, that's your whole life planned out in front of you.
Yeah.
And that's it. You're going to be in a band, and that's it. And I literally was like that.
Awesome.
So that started it off. So about 12 years old.
Why did you pick guitar and not bass then?
Well, I actually, to be honest, I was going to play bass first. I actually was going to play drums first, right? Because it appealed to me, it looked easy, right?
Just hit stuff, right?
Right. And then I just thought, you know what? I wanted to buy a drum kit, and my mum just said, no, you can't have a drum kit. Then I was like, what's the next easiest thing? Well, it's got to be bass, because it's got 4 strings, right? Like that. And I couldn't get hold of a bass. And then one day I was going down the street, and I saw a guitar hanging up in the shop. And I called my dad. It was a Sunday. I called my dad. I said, Dad, there's a guitar in the second-hand shop, and the guy's in there at the moment. He's like sorting out the store.
Right.
And so it was like £20. So my dad drove into town, because I was like on my bike. And he just knocked on the window and said to the guy, I've got 20 quid, can I have that guitar now? And the guy opened the store, and he goes, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
And he sold me the guitar, and that's how I started. The craziest thing was this was 35 years plus ago, right?
Yeah.
The weirdest thing was about 6 months ago, I drove down the same street, and I saw where the old second-hand bric-a-brac shop, right? I saw where it used to be. And then it was like, now it's like a guitar shop, right?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. And I went in, and it was the same guy behind the counter who
So...
sold me the guitar. And and he had a picture of me on the wall with the Spice Girls. How bizarre is that? Yeah. It was really...
That's strange. Really so basically what happened is your dad went and bought that guitar. He thought, God, these things sell well. I'm just going to do a guitar.
Everyone I've sold has become famous player. There you go. At the time, it was the
it's like maybe it's like a pick of destiny type thing or something, where if you go into like that shop, like you're destined to, you know, go on to great things. You should probably give them. You should probably give them a shout out so that like all the young guitarists would be flying in there, like, hey, bless me now.
You know what though? They'll come and they'll bring it back. I bought this guitar here and I'm not famous yet. Basically, yeah. So I got the guitar. I started playing. I'm self-taught, so I just watched videos, you know, because there was no YouTube then. So some videos and bits.
First few riffs.
It would have been Whole Lot of Rosie, AC/DC.
Right, wicked. Because
it was the easiest. You'll hear this a lot. Then it was Black Sabbath, Iron Man, and
cool.
NIB and Paranoid, all those kind of things. So they're really simple riffs. And then it kind of went into Motorhead after that. But Led Zeppelin was too hard. I could never do Led Zeppelin or Jimi Hendrix, you know.
Sure.
So, but I was into that new wave of British heavy metal at the time, which was Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Motorhead. It's like 1980. So I picked it up from there. I taught myself. I had lots of different bands and joined bands and all that kind of stuff. And it got to a point where I was playing and I had a good local scene and I had a band going on, which was really good. And we had a little record deal and all these things. But I just was like, I think this is when I was about 20 something, very early 20s. I was like, you know what? I think I need to be successful now as a musician. So I've got to go to London because it was the only place, you know, you're talking 1990 something, very early 1990, probably 1990 itself.
Yes. Yeah.
And I thought that, you know, the only place to actually get success as a musician really was London at the time.
Yeah.
For where I was. So I just moved to London with a suitcase and guitar. And I just kind of joined bands, formed a club, did all these things up until I met the guys from Skunk.
Right, yeah. And then, and how did that happen then?
Well, from the club. So I started a club off, which is called the Splash Club in London.
Yes, of course.
Quite legendary at the time.
Yes, it's really famous.
We booked Oasis's first show there, and everyone got signed there. Reef Feeder, all these people.
Right.
There. So I knew all those people. I knew that scene. And we had a band and we would book ourselves, you know, the band I was in running the club, we'd book ourselves in really good slots. So everyone was hanging out there and I met Skin and Cass and they're in another band. And
that was Mama Wild, is that?
That's right, yeah. And it was like, you know, organic kind of stuff, you know, young musicians, hanging out on the scene, having fun, no money. And I talked to Skin and we were chatting and we got on and I just said to her, I used to DJ in the club as well. I used to have all the white labels for like Rage Against the Machine and Pilots, all this stuff before it came out. And so everybody was like, what is that? And I was playing Rage Against the Machine. She came up to me and she said, what is that? It was like Killing in the Name of their first ever release. And I was like, it's this band from America. They just popped up out of nowhere, right? And she said, oh, it's wicked. And I said, you know what? You'll probably like Soundgarden, Tool, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Chili Peppers, all this stuff that was emerging at the time. So I made a mixtape of it, and that's where we became friends. And after that, I used to let her in the club all of the time, and the guys from the band. And in the end, one day, she was like, I'm thinking about starting a new band. And I was like, I'll do it with you, like that. And
for sure.
That's how we got together. But then, you know, I engineered it after that by booking us all the good slots in the pub.
Of course, that makes sense.
Also, it's the right thing at the right time, but it's being aware of it as well. Because, you know, if you know, we were quite a heavy rock band and we were quite, I suppose, when you look at it, almost classic, you know, in the kind of melodies and the structures. Whereas if we'd come out all wearing leather jeans with laces at the side and long hair, right, playing that music, we probably wouldn't have caught on because it just wouldn't have done anything. But we were conscious of the fact that we were a new breed of people with a different type of look and scene around us. So when we came out, we almost looked like we were in the Britpop scene.
Sure.
You know, with like, you know, our beanies and Adidas trainers, like any kind of band for a long time. If you do something for a long time, the secret of success, it's like a business of anything. You have to keep reinventing, pushing yourself forward, doing something new, and observing the things around you, the way the fashion changes, the trends, the way people are, you know, and embracing it and using it to create more life in what you're doing. So, you know, otherwise you stagnate and then you just become old and everyone gets bored of you really quickly. I mean, these days people get bored with people in 10 minutes.
10 seconds, exactly. So is the process of making records now significantly different because of the financial side of it?
No, because we still do it like that.
And you just spend the money anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you know what? I think you've got to take into consideration there's a lot of different elements to being a band, right? And they're not just about finances, right? It's about what floats your boat. It's about what makes you creative. It's about what gives you longevity. And it's about what makes you happy, right? So, for instance, when you make an album, you could be... you could go in a cheap studio and this and that, right? Well, I mean, when I'm talking about us, because obviously we gross money, don't we, touring and stuff like that.
Sure, of course.
We could go, let's keep the money and just go and make a cheap record in our house, right? We do have our own studio, right? But we don't really, but we just do demos there, right?
Yeah.
But for us, we just want a really good producer and a nice environment studio, and and a really good mixer and a great master, and it just makes this classic album that'll last for another 20, 30 years, sounding good.
Exactly.
And it makes us creative, it makes us feel good, and we're happy with the product. So it's what works for you, right? Whereas I could go and make a record in my house if I felt like it, if it worked for me in a certain vein. But when the band comes together, we kind of like to have that experience. Those rooms in those studios, they're made for you to make noise and not think about things. You're not thinking, oh, is the neighbor going to complain, or is this loud enough? You just go in and you start to create, and it's all about your space, right? And the way we do it is we're self-financed. We have our own record label. So we tour. So we'll do a really big tour for like half a year or something, all the festivals, and we'll come back with a bunch of money, and we're a lot like a certain proportion to make an album, and within that it'll pay for a really good producer, a good mixer, and good master. So we've always had the pleasure of being able to, and the luxury of being able to choose really good producers, and so we also and we choose them from the records we really like. So the first producer we ever used was Sylvia Massey.
Yes, of course.
Tool record. So I was listening to Tool. I gave Skin the Tool album when she was in the club, the whole lot. And when we had the chance, they said, who do you want to produce your album? And I was like, let's get Sylvia Massey because of Tool, right? And so we did. We rang her up and she did it. And the next album, and then Andy Wallace mixed it, who was mixing Nirvana and all that stuff.
Yes, of course.
And so we, and then mastering, I think it was Harry Weinberg, who was the big name.
Yeah, of course,
So we were choosing these people, but it came out really good. And then this next album, we were like, well, we love Rage Against the Machine. Let's get that guy.
Yeah.
So Garth came in and did it, and Joe Bareshi mixed it, who's the guy who did Queens of the Stone Age. I think it was mastered by Bob Ludwig or Harry Myers.
Right, sure.
And also when you look at it in a business sense, with a good quality product and kind of, name producers and people like that, when you go to license your product, your record across different countries and stuff, it's more a valuable asset to them. So then you can recoup what you spent on it. So say you spend £150,000 making an album, right? If you can license it to 10 countries, right, for 20 grand each, right, then you kind of got your investment back. So you haven't really spent anything as in such that, that you can't bring back. But if we'd made it in our rooms and we'd said, we've got a record we made in our room, we went to the licensees, they would probably say, I'm not sure about this.
So how many are you going to get?
In a business sense, it's about, you can recoup it when you're a big band and you spend the money. Right. It's only when you get stupid and you start to go, and we'll have 50 cabs on top of that and sushi every night and blah, 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 and spend 2 years in the studio, that you don't make it back, and that was the classic thing of the old days of the major record companies, which we've been through.
Has there much that's changed in terms of the dynamics of writing and making the records, like from the old days to the new days, in terms of how people are putting it all together? And that?
I think you know what, I think we've gone full circle. We started off in a room playing together. Then we made stuff in the studio, then we made stuff bits and pieces remotely, then we made stuff which we went in the studio and then we chopped it up and all these things, and then we've gone back around and now we just literally go, right, we're songwriting now, let's just take a practice amp into an old farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and just the four of us just sit and write music and record it on our phones. So, we've done the computer recording and this and that.
You're back to boombox in the corner of the practice room.
And it's, to be honest, it's more or less been like that all the way along. We've just added processes and thrown them out again. But it's what works. I think this is the thing about a band. It's what works for you. It's not particularly any way. It's how you feel creative.
Yeah. And personal dynamics and and how you've all changed as people. I mean, like you've been together as friends now for like 25 years and probably knew each other a little bit before that.
Exactly the same. We're just as stupid as we've ever been.
Really?
Yeah, we're just stupid, just like kids. There you go. Imagine if you had known your mate, right, for 25 years, right? And you go, hey, let's go down the pub, right? You act like you did when you were with him 25 years ago, don't you? Really? You might be a bit older. You might have a little bit more decorum, right?
Sure.
But you're still laughing and telling the same kind of jokes and stories and drinking the same way. And it's a bit like that in a band. If you're the same people for 25 years, when you get together, you instantly revert back to that. You have a bit more maturity, hopefully. But, you're just making jokes and laughing and listening to music. And you feel like kids again.
There are quite a lot of accolades and things that you guys did. I've seen you headline Glastonbury. Tell me a couple of like your most, the mind-blowing ones, the things that you're kind of like, wow, like, did I really do all that stuff?
Well, Glastonbury, yes. Headlining Glastonbury is a monumental feat. I have to say that one that topped that, though, last year we headlined Polish Woodstock, and that was 750,000 people. It made Glastonbury, honestly, look like a house party. It really was that big. I mean, that was amazing. That was a monumental feat. So it's still nice to be able to do things like that.
Yeah.
Pavarotti, we played with Pavarotti.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's
for the Dalai Lama. And we met them both, and played with Andrea Bocelli last year, I think it was, in Italy for a charity benefit. Even though we're very heavy, we have our mellow side, don't we? Touring back in the day with like Lenny Kravitz and Killing Joke and stuff like that, that was really fun. Toured America a lot, obviously, with people like Rammstein and Soulfly and all that kind of that era. I mean, monumental stuff, obviously, is to be able to do that Nelson Mandela thing. That was his gift to the nation. So it was, the 80th birthday, I think it was. And, that was part of history, isn't it? You're doing something in history.
That's ridiculous, That's like...
But, the great thing about it all is it's not all history, is it? So, you might headline Glastonbury and play for the Dalai Lama and Nelson Mandela. But, last year alone, when we were doing our 25th anniversary, I mean, we were doing... Polish Woodstock, number one in the charts there, playing with Bon Jovi, 50,000. So we were, still the same size and doing the same kind of things. It's not like a bit like a nostalgia trip. It's like
that's where
it's a great way to. It's a great way to live, isn't it? That you don't rest on the past and go.
Oh yeah, of course, I'm not suggesting that you should. It's just because I don't think people necessarily. Like these days, everything's reduced to kind of weird little, mainly just the songs, really. So I don't know if people know that there's all this kind of like huge history behind the band where they've done like these crazy things. Obviously, like some of the things you'd say when we were in the studio, I'd be like, what? And that, when you said like about like David Bowie and like how, Bowie was your, like essentially a friend. Do you know what I mean? Which is insane, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he was more of a friend to Skin. I met him a bunch of times, and he was fantastic, right? She knew him better because she knew Iman as well, right?
Right.
But he was really brilliant. I mean, all the times I met him, he was really fun. I have some really good stories.
You might as well tell the Rollins story when. You told me a story. So you told me, pick it up if you want to. I'll start you off. So you told me a story where you were hanging out with Chris Haskett, Rollins band, and Rollins is over sitting, just reading, being like one man is an island kind of Rollins style. And then David Bowie walks across, and Chris Haskett says to you, "Oh look, it's David Bowie."
Yeah, he said. It was basically we just toured America with Rollins, and we came back, and obviously I'd met David Bowie a few times, and he was like my best friend, but he was really nice to us as a band, and so Henry's there sitting on the chair, being an island, and Chris is chatting to me. And then he says, "Oh my God, look, there's David Bowie." He's like, "Have you ever been this close to David Bowie in your whole life?" And I just thought, I'm not going to say anything because it won't get through. And I looked up and David Bowie looks over and goes, Ace, how you doing, man? And I was like, thank you, Lord, like this. And Chris goes, let's talk to him. And we went over and in the end, Henry, he couldn't resist it. He had to come over. He was like, hey, man, how you doing? But it was really nice. You know, he was, every time I met him, he was a real gentleman. He was really interesting. And he had time for everybody, and he always remembered everyone as well. He remembered their names and remember when he saw you. It was he wasn't like an unapproachable rock star. He was, and you know, he was such a classic person. You know, even when he spoke to you, he had that David Bowie voice.
And I guess obviously you worked with Lemmy as well. Which must have been amazing.
Well, I mean, to be honest, working with Lemmy was just a little part of it, right? Because I was friends with Lemmy for like over 20 years, right? And I could say he was my friend, you know. And I went out with him many times, right? And every time was an adventure.
Oh, wow.
Right? Oh, he was just, he was unique. He was brilliant. He was unique. He was really fun, right? And he was what he was, you know. He was I think he was the last real rock and roller in the world, really. You know. But what I loved about him is he was funny, right? He had a great sense of humour, right? He was very, to believe it or not, he was a really kind person, right? And he cared about people a lot as well. And he was like, he was quite generous as well. He was generous with his time and everything. And so when you see Motorhead, you always think of this kind of rock and roll animal, right? And he was, to a certain extent, because that's the way he liked to live, you know, rock and roll free. But as a person, he never let me down. He was always really, really interesting and funny. And, you know, it was like, come on, man, let's go. Every time I went anywhere with him, he goes, let's go. And you're like, I don't know where I'm going.
But this is going to be...
Yeah, it was carnage at the end of it. Whatever night you had, it was a bit like, I am never going to drink again. And it was
until the next time you called.
Yeah, exactly. So he, you know, for 20 years, right until he died, he was a part of my life. And I don't really have any rock and roll mates like that, as in such. I mean, obviously, friends in my kind of era. But it was great, even to when I got married, and you know, after I got married, you know. The next day, you know, on the night after I got married, I went and sat in a bar with Motorhead and drank champagne and this. And then the next day they invited me to play with them for the 25th anniversary. And it was just, you know, I have so many good stories about him. He never let me down. And what a lot of people didn't know is when we used to play in LA, or if we played in like Brixton in London, a lot of the times Lemmy was on the side of the stage at those shows. That stand, because he was a big Skunk fan, so he used to stand and watch the shows on the side of the stage. And people never knew that many times.
That's crazy. And not to move on from Lemmy, but I was going to say also Iommi. It just popped into my head that you did the song with Tony Iommi, which is like, so all the people that you've grown up like learning the riffs of, you ended up. Do you have any kind of particularly anything to say about like Iommi?
Iommi.
That
I have to say, Tony Iommi was really brilliant. Right, I've met him a bunch of times since, and he is just a brilliant person. He has got an amazing sense of humour, right? A really dry sense of humour. So when we did that record with him, it was me and Skin on his solo album. That night, we all went out for a curry, right? Around the corner from Olympic Studios with me, Skin, him, and the engineers and the producer. And he just told us stories about Black Sabbath, which honestly, we were crying tears. It was so funny because they were true. And the way he said it was like, it couldn't be true. And they were true. And so I remember it being one of the funniest evenings I've ever had, right, with someone. And then I read his book, Iron Man, not long ago. And it's actually got all those stories in there.
Really crazy.
Right? I mean, you know, so this was way back before the book was written and stuff. And it was so funny. And, you know, as I said, he is, if anyone has seen anything about Tony, he's a real humble person. He's a real kind of down-to-earth living legend. Same as like Robert Plant. The same kind of thing. You know, these super mega gods of rock, of metal. When you meet them, it's like they're just normal people, and they've got nothing to prove, right? Because they've kind of, you know, done the thing. But they're so open, you know, and that's what I loved about him. It was like you meet a hero and they don't let you down. It's an amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you guys got a song about it, so
there was a great touch on that story, though, right? After we did that album, I was actually in the studio with Lemmy, right, cutting a song in London, and my manager rings me up and says, "I've just got a package from Tony Iommi for you," right?
Oh, really?
I'm like, what is it? And she goes, I don't know. And I go, send it to me now in the studio. She put it in a cab, came around to the studio, and I opened the package, and it was like a pewter coffin, right? And I opened the coffin up. This coffin's like, I don't know, 6-7 inches.
Yeah.
I opened the coffin up, and there is a silver cross. You know, like the Black Sabbath ones, Tony.
Yeah.
For me, silver cross with my name etched in it, like.
Oh wow! How metal as well, like. That's the greatest metal gift ever. And you received it in front of Lemmy as well, which is like your whole world is like, okay, I've made it, right? That must be like, okay, I've made it. That's fine.
Yeah. All we'd need after that is like Lita Ford to walk in, isn't
it? Say, Ace, I've wanted you for so long.
And here's my cross.
Do you write things that you end up going, oh, why did I write this? This is really hard to do now.
Everything. Yes. Because, you know, being the guitarist, obviously, I get in the studio, I manage to track stuff and overdub melodies.
Yeah.
That's right, let's do it live. You've got to do all that. And you're just like, oh, that's like 3 parts.
How do I do all of this? Yeah. Do you use do you do much dancing on your pedals to loop little bits and stuff like that?
Yeah, what I do is I listen to the tracks after we finish recording, and I listen to them and I go, first of all, I program all the effects and the raps so they sound the same. But then I go, which parts can I live with and which I can't live without? And then I make a conscious decision to play certain bits and not the others. You know what I mean? So I single them out.
Yeah,
so, you know, if you listen to Twisted, the live version compared to the record, I mean, the record's got
tons
harmonies,
of little bits going
all these
on.
bits. Whereas a live one, I just go, as an octave
this is
pedal.
the bit you need,
Yeah, doubling. I use like 2 or 3 amps and octave pedals, and also so it sounds really full. And then on the last tour or so, we've also had Erica Footman, who's our session player, who does backing vocals. She does a bit of keyboards, plays a little bit of rhythm guitar. Skin plays a bit of acoustic and rhythm. So we match up, but you know, it's and that's how we write the records. You know, all in the place in one room. We only just do a bit of, you know, artistic license.
Of course.
When we get in the studio.
Exactly. Yeah. But so do you have a favourite pedal at the moment? You got a little favourite that you're like, oh, this is fun?
I'm really enjoying. There's this thing called a Guru's double decker. Right. And basically it's like an overdriver type preamp valve thing, right? But the reason I like it is because it makes my amp sound like Gary Moore.
I'm noticing a theme here.
I love Gary Moore's guitar sound. I love it. I think it's just brilliant. It's blues sound, right?
Of course.
Totally over the top. It's like basically like someone put a rocket up some old blues guy's ass, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
And it's just so extreme. But you know, so this double decker pedal, you know, it gives you that kind of tone, you know. So that's my favourite one at the moment. You know?
Yeah, wicked, awesome. You were telling me all about the stuff that you're doing at the moment. I wanted you to talk about.
Well, kind of, you know, with this kind of like obviously with lockdown, you know, there's like everything's going online and it's a change, and then there's like loads and loads of people doing loads of stuff like you're doing this show, right? But there's loads of people just doing kind of, you know, any kind of mindless online content, isn't there? Like, I just film myself with a cat on my head in the back of the garden. People are like that, you know. Whatever. And then there's people kind of going, I'll just Instagram, look, big up the NHS, they're doing a great job. Here I am in my swimming pool drinking champagne, doing my bit for the lockdown, you know, all that kind of stuff. So when a lot of people approach me to do things, so I haven't got a lot of time because I'm doing college stuff. So what I've done is I picked the choice ones, the quality ones, right? So I did a guitar jam the other day for PRS called Isolation Sessions.
Right, cool.
And it was like a video. Obviously, we get the stems and we all play and film ourselves.
Right.
I have the least impressive studio because I'm in my house. I don't have a studio. It's in my room with my headphones on. Right? But there was Jacko from King Crimson, Simon McBride, Piers from Sweet Crisis, and Rob Harris from Jamiroquai. And we just did this track together, which was really nice, a piece of music and guitar solo. So we did that. And then PRS Guitars of America have come to me this week and asked me to do something where I can play a section of a song and fans and their employees can play over the top guitar solos.
Yeah.
So I think that's really valid. On the Skunk kind of Instagram web at the moment, I've got guitar films coming out, a really good quality of how to play Skunk songs. So there's that as well.
You'll have all these Skunk tribute bands popping up suddenly.
Yeah.
More PRS for you.
Yeah,
good.
Exactly. We're talking Skunk. We're going to do something. I was in touch with Skin today about the a cappella app, where you can do all something together in the room.
Have you got like top 3 riffs that you've wrote and your top 3 riffs that you just like think are the best?
Okay, top three that I've written. Yes, it's political.
Yeah.
Charlie Big Potato.
Yeah,
that's a really good one.
Best bit in that though, I'm going to put it on film now because I've told you before anyway, but it's the bit in the middle after you've had this amazing song with all the beautiful vocals, the amazing strings, the riffing and everything. It's when it goes into that heavy bit, it's it's just so good.
That was my idea,
So good. So it's such a Beavis and Butthead moment. It's so good.
There's a riff on an architecture called Suckers.
Yes.
And it was just such a last minute thing that we just chucked it down, on the album. But I thought that was a great riff.
Yeah, wicked, awesome. Yeah.
And riffs. I suppose riffs I really, really like. I think Whole Lot of Love. I think is brilliant because it's so simple.
Yeah.
I think something like Sweet Leaf, Black Sabbath.
Right, of course. Yeah.
All right.
Classic. Good enough for the Chili's, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Give it away. And then, what would really get me going? Albatross by Corrosion of Conformity.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, my God. It's just stupendous riff. That
really
riff,
awesome. That's a good shout out. Yeah, more people should hear of that band.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome. I do love a riff. I mean, rock music is based around riffs, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the key.
Yeah, it's the key, isn't it? So, if it gets you going, and I'm in the car, huge riff. Yes.
Yeah. And obviously we don't need Who You Think You Are. It's just that one's huge. Huge.
Yeah.
Riff. Yeah.
Okay, I'll put that down, actually. I'll swap Suckers for that one.
Oh, really? Yeah, wicked. Yeah,
that riff actually came out of when we went to LA, right? And we were doing a photo shoot. So one night we went to Las Vegas, and I'd never been to Las Vegas. And when I went there, I just thought it was quite awful, actually. Right? I mean, I got over it since. Obviously, I quite enjoy it. But I was like, "What is this place, man? It's just like full of these awful people, like spending money in slot machines, and it just was so weird."
Yeah.
And I went back to the hotel and I wrote that riff.
Right. Yeah. Wicked. Right? Awesome.
And then just this monster riff, and then at the same time, then we went over to South Africa, and Skin was like, "Oh, that's the riff," and then we wrote the song about South Africa. We don't need Who You Think You Are. That was quite a radical monster at the time.
There's such a phenomenal vocal performance on that record, and even live, you did a version on Jules Holland, which Skin just nails it. But thanks so much for spending the time, chatting with us, and take care of yourself during all of this. And I'll no doubt see you hopefully when you're back touring. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I was, before I was having dinner before this, wasn't I? And I was saying to my wife, I'm going to speak to Lee from Smilex. You remember they came around my house and we mixed that record, and they gave my son a little tiny T-shirt.
Amazing. Did you remember?
She's, that's right.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah,
that was a good time. I have to say though, Lee, blowing a trumpet for you though, because I've always told you this though. I've always really liked your lyrics, and when we did that record, which was 7, wasn't it? Right.
Yeah.
I was really, I said to you at the time, I loved your lyrics because they were so honest, right?
Yeah.
And they were so aggressive, right? And they were just like, nobody cared, kind of, I don't give a fuck, that type of lyrics, right?
Yeah.
And, when you do something that is that kind of like, I suppose, genuine and honest, it lasts, doesn't it, right?
Yeah.
And recently, you know, the beauty of iTunes, I'm like, what do I want to listen to? And I'm like, I want to listen to Flimsy Fickle Fashion, right?
Really
so just
wicked.
pop it on iTunes, right? And I'm in my car, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, I could have got a speeding ticket like for going 150 miles an hour.
Really
right? It was
wicked.
just like,
awesome.
it was like, oh my God, the song hasn't lost it, right? The ferociousness
yeah, I'm
about
really,
that song.
yeah, that album, like, if I get run over by a bus tomorrow, which I hope I don't, because I've got some more in me, but you could hold up 7 and say, I'd say, yeah, it's still, the lyrics still seem to be relevant today, which is kind of sad. I wish they weren't, in a way,
So
you know, because it's raging against a lot of stuff that you would hope wouldn't be around because it was written ages ago. And so, yeah, and then also the weird thing about the thing is that someone's actually crashed their car to 8 Big Man before. So that has actually happened. So you do have to, maybe our album should come with a warning like, watch out, if you're in the car, just watch out because, you know, you might get carried away. So yeah, there's
it's great. It's as I said, the lyrics, they haven't aged at all, and they were just brilliant. That song in particular, I love it. It was just such a smash in the face.
Awesome. Well, yeah, keep on rocking. Thanks so much for doing this, and yeah, we'll keep in touch anyway, dude. Welcome back to COVID Breakdown. I'm John Lennon.
And I'm Paul McCartney. Woo! Oof, that was pretty tasty, wasn't it?
Yep, you can catch the full interview on our YouTube channel. There's also the full interviews for loads of the stuff from the show, and yeah, just tons and tons of content on there. There's some tutorials and lots of different bits and movies, short films and all sorts. So go and check it out. It's just elsewhere on this channel. You just need to like scroll or something like that. Anyway, film review.
This is one of Tim Burton's lesser known films, and unjustly because it's a sci-fi gem. It's got an amazing cast including Annette Bening, Jack Nicholson, Natalie Portman, Glenn Close, Jack Black, the list goes on. And it has got Tom Jones talking to a deer.
That's pretty good.
Pretty amazing, huh? Danny DeVito. The plot of this film is Jack Nicholson plays the president of the US of A, and Martians have made contact. Earth wants to have a peaceful first talks with the Martians. Do they want to have a peaceful first talks with the humans, Lee?
No.
No, they don't. I highly recommend you watch this movie. If you don't know lots of Tim Burton's work, this is certainly one that you should start off with.
And then also we watched Tenacious D, Pick of Destiny. So you can talk about that. I want to talk about this first. It's the Masterworks. Most people don't know this, haven't seen it. A lot of people mainly just know the Pick of Destiny or know the albums. This has all the HBO sketches in it, and it's really, really funny. It's also got a load of really sick stuff on the second disc, which is, they say, for super fans only, which is pretty over the top and crazy. There's also a great live gig at Brixton Academy on this, and also some short films and music videos, tribute, making of tribute, all sorts of stuff like that. So yeah, this is the definitive article for this real Tenacious D fan. So yeah, get your hands on this. What about you, Grace?
Ah, poor old Pick of Destiny. It didn't really get much in the way of good reviews, did it, when it was released? But it kind of tanked, unfortunately. But it's picked up some DVD sale revival. It's become a cult classic. It's a low-key film. It's got an all-star cast.
What, Paul's brother?
Yeah, it's a low-key film. It doesn't have Tom Hiddleston in it. It's the origin story of Tenacious D, a very, very sweet and simple plot, lots of laughs, lots of great songs, great cameos, great effects, and Jack Black is just absolutely hilarious in it. If you're even a Jack Black fan, you don't even know anything about Tenacious D, where have you been? You'll enjoy this as just a great comedy romp. So check out Tenacious D, Pick of Destiny, and not just Jack Black's workout routines on TikTok.
So yeah, get your hands on the D right now.
Next up, we have got Pierre from band Bandana and Ruction Records, and he is going to be showing us how to make a bandana. Take it away, Pierre.
That's my line.
What I got for you today, screen printing your own bandana. So luckily enough, I had these screens made up time ago. I didn't really put them to much use, but I figured now's a good time. Found some old bandanas laying around that ain't been printed on, so I figured I'd bang out a few things in. You can follow me on this little journey. So as you can see, the screen is here. Just got to sort out these side bits so the paint doesn't go through any of these gaps. So the idea is you're pushing the paint through the clear bits that are not blocked. And then when you lift it off, the image is on your gum. So I'm going to take this one up. Ideally you need masking tape, but my masking tape's about 100 years old and I can't even peel a bit off because it's so dry up and it ain't sticky no more. It's like solid. So we're using packing tape. Alright, taped up the ends here. I ain't bothered with this bit because it's overhanging anyway, so nothing's going to print under there. Same on here. Also masked out the Ruction mans because we're not going to use it on this one. Going to try to do the letters. So after a little bit of fiddling about with measuring where it's going to land and whatnot, I've got it kind of lined up where I want it. Really you want to iron this. Okay, let's get some colours on it. So we had to have a break for the clapping. Man's hands are rocky. Clapping for time out here. Yes, for the NHS. The real heroes out there on the front line. Big up the NHS. So I decided on purple. Good as colour as any. For a little test in it, you can just gently spread it over your screen so the paint loads up into the gaps and gently run it back over. Now, I kind of need two hands for this as it's not too wide. I'll try and do it while holding the camera and hopefully the table won't fall on me. It's DIY, innit? Punk rock out here. London hardcore. Ready? Now with a bit of pressure applied evenly across the thing. Don't know the technical term for it. You just draw it across. Get a nice steady even pressure. Nice and smooth, fill it up. Push it down. I'm applying a bit of pressure because the screen is quite big. Now using this thing, like I said before, even pressure and a steady pull. There we go. Right then. So, I hope you found the tips on screen printing at home a little bit useful. I am by no means a professional. We do this in a DIY manner for our record label, for our bands, for ourselves, just for fun. So anyway, you saw me screen print the purple outline from an old screen that I had made up. If you want to know about how to make up your own screens, it's all possible at home as well. I'm sure you'll find YouTube videos or whatever. Give it a go. So there are a few things you need. And with my one, I ended up colouring it in. There's a whole world of fabric pens and paints you can use. Easy to apply. Just a matter of ironing them on to seal the paint in, and it's all washable. Yeah, so I just filled it in. Just as I say, this is a prototype experiment. Also, as it's going to be used as more of a face mask thing, I decided to fold it and sew it in, as you can see, so it holds its shape more. There's a little piece there, just so it sits on the bridge of your nose a bit more firmer. I'm actually waiting for a couple of bits just for the ends to help tighten it up. Like a drawstring bag kind of plastic, what they're called, fasteners, adjustable fastener thing. So yeah, once they come, then it should be easy to adjust to whatever size your big head might be. And that's that. As you can see, does the job. Ripping Ruction Records, Ruction.com. So hopefully this video was useful to someone out there. If not, hopefully you found it entertaining for a little bit. So big up COVID TV. Enough respect to all the contributors out there, inspiring the masses. Stay creative, keep that mind ticking. Do something positive. Yo man, blessings.
Thanks, Pierre. Do go and check out Ruction Records. They've got loads of great hardcore acts, and you might have seen my hat that I wear a lot of the time, the Ruction Records hat. Yeah, you can get loads of cool merch from them as well. Cheers, check them out. That's kind of it for the show, isn't it? That's pretty much it.
Crikey.
And guess what? That's it for a whole week, because we're going to take a week off because our computer is burning up, it's melting into a pile of like plastic and circuits and all sorts of and little pieces of metal. And
as is my brain.
Yeah, and is your brain made of little pieces of metal?
Yeah.
Yes!
Yeah, my brain's made of nanobots.
Not yet, but it might be in the future. Next week you tune in, we might all be nanobot filled. So nanobots are just like really old robots, aren't they?
Yeah, really old. They're self-isolating in my brain. They can't come out.
Good bit. So we're taking a bit of a break. I want to do a live set online, and there's a bank holiday weekend coming up, and we really need to clear some space, get in some new content. Send us your content, get in touch, send us your content, otherwise there's no show if you don't send anything. So there will be no show to next week for the bank holiday, and hopefully we'll be back the week after. I hope you have enjoyed the other shows. If you haven't seen them, go back and have a look. There's tons and tons. You've got 5 other episodes apart from this, full of content to look through. So yeah, and you can use all the lessons and you can rewind them and do them again. So you don't be too lonely without us. And if you are lonely, come over and see my live stream. I'm going to do some music and chuck in a couple of covers and some of my songs. So let's see how that goes. So how are we closing out the show, Grace?
We have got a band all the way from New York.
All girls!
All girl band. They are Sharp Violets, and here is their song Gossip Rocket that they did over webcams.
Yeah, during the lockdown. So look, everybody can be creative, can't they? Thanks very much. Have a good week off from us. Take it away, Sharp Violet.